Now that free agency has mostly taken place in the NFL, we're going to look at wide receivers again to see who we're backing off of in fantasy because their value might be going down. So Chris, who's a player that you're a little bit wary of?
Yeah, I'm pretty wary of DJ Moore. And this isn't anything against DJ Moore, the player. I think he's a fine player. I don't like his quarterback situation. I'm sorry. I don't believe Sam Darnold is the answer. I don't believe he's an upgrade over Teddy Bridgewater. He might even be a downgrade, right? We have yet to see Sam Darnold look like a very good quarterback in the NFL. And you can talk about Adam Gase all you want, but he still should have at least shown signs. And I haven't really seen any signs. And when you look at this offense, like I feel okay about Christian McCaffrey because I think, Darnold will dump the ball off plenty. We've seen that. And who of the receivers has Sam Darnold played with before? Robbie Anderson. So I'm a little worried that he's going to have that connection with Robbie Anderson. He's going to lock into Robbie Anderson too much, not look DJ Moore's way enough. And I think it's going to be a down year for DJ Moore this year, who's still being drafted, in the first 4 rounds. I'm just staying away from this offense. Well, the passing game, I should say, not Christian McCaffrey, but I'm staying away from the passing game with Sam Darnold at quarterback.
And don't forget that right now, like you said, DJ Moore is going in the 4th round. Maybe he'll fall to the 5th round in these early mocks we're doing. Robbie Anderson is usually available in the 6th round. And why not take the guy who could wind up being the leading target instead of the guy who's going a round or 2 earlier? So Anderson's the smarter pick if you want a piece of that passing offense. Don't forget that they also might draft either a wide receiver. Some people think maybe Kyle Pitts at tight end. That would cut into his production. I agree with you. His ADP is just a little bit too high for my taste also. So a guy that I know a lot of people aren't really on, but the way he ended the season was pretty strong, and that's T.Y. Hilton. It might give you some faith in the fact that, well, he's going to kind of refine himself, and with Carson Wentz at quarterback, maybe there's also some life there, kind of like the Sam Darnold going to Carolina. Maybe we'll find new life. I'm not buying it, okay? So I'm not really interested in too many Indianapolis wide receivers, to be honest. I really loved Michael Pittman, but now I'm just kind of out. And then Hilton is going to be probably the main guy there staying in Indy, but I can't do it, right? I don't think that Wentz is going to all of a sudden become drastically better with a new team. I need to see it before I believe it. So you also have to realize that at this point, what Hilton is not what he was, because his stretch of being productive in fantasy was with Andrew Luck. As soon as Andrew Luck retired, things changed. Okay, so his first few years in the league, Hilton averaged 75 yards per game. And then the last 2 years without Luck, 50 yards per game. That is a steep drop. It didn't matter who was at quarterback. I don't think Wentz is an upgrade over Phillip Rivers. So I'm out on him. I don't care how far he falls. Some people say, oh, he's a nice, sleeper. Not to me.
Yeah, for me, T.Y. Hilton's just a boom bust, like wide receiver 4, wide receiver 5 type of guy. And it's really hard to trust those guys in fantasy week to week because you put them in your lineup when they bust and you put them on your bench when they boom a lot of times. So, yeah, I'm with you on that. And another guy who I actually think is a very good player, but the situation is about as bad as it could be, and that's Brandin Cooks of the Houston Texans. If you watched our running back, don't draft video, we talked about David Johnson. We talked about this whole Texans offense. I'm just staying away completely. I don't understand. I mean, I get it. You see the name. You see Brandin Cooks. It's like the 8th round. You think, hey, he's pretty good. But who's going to be throwing him the ball? We don't even know. How many points is this offense going to score? This might be one of the worst offenses we have seen in a really long time because it's looking worse and worse for Deshaun Watson by the day. And even if Deshaun Watson isn't suspended, is he even going to be on the Texans? Is he going to be their quarterback? So no, I'm not drafting Brandin Cooks or any Texans player for that matter, just because the situation looks so bad.
Yeah, if I'm staying away from the Colts passing game, I'm staying away from the Texans, period. Just all of it. All of them. I want nothing to do with them, regardless of who's quarterback there. But this is a team that is in very strong contention for the number 1 pick of next year's draft. My next player at wide receiver that I just have to be out on, after a promising rookie season, we just saw more of the same from Darius Slayton. So 741 yards, and he was pretty productive. 15 yards per catch, obviously a big play threat. Well, last season he did the exact same thing, 750 yards, 15 yards per catch. he is what he is at this point. There was no step forward. There was no growth. Blame that on whoever you want, Daniel Jones, the coach, the offense, whatever, Saquon Barkley being out. What's going to change this year? Well, Barkley's back. Okay, so they'll run the ball more. They couldn't run the ball last year, and he didn't get more volume. Is Daniel Jones going to take a big step forward in year 3? I'm not counting on that, and I don't think many people are. And oh, by the way, they signed Kenny Golladay. So we could see even less production from him, fewer targets. Talk about boom bust. He is boom bust, but the boom seems to be getting fewer and fewer. And so he's a guy that even as your 4th or 5th receiver, I just can't. I'd rather have a guy with a lot more upside in terms of the volume. You have to chase targets in fantasy, even more so than talent or speed. The targets have to be there or there's going to be no fantasy points. So Slayton, he's just a guy I'm ignoring basically at this point.
Yep, me too, especially with the addition of Kenny Golladay, because that right there tells you that the Giants didn't feel good about what they were getting from the receivers on the perimeter. So not a good thing for Darius Slayton. And obviously Daniel Jones, he is what he is. He's like Sam Darnold to me. He's just not it. So I'm staying away as well. And then I think everybody's drafting the wrong wide receiver 2 on the Chiefs, and that's Mecole Hardman. So, everybody's all excited. Sammy Watkins is finally gone. But look at what Hardman did in the 5 games without Sammy Watkins last year. He had one nice game where he caught 7 passes for 96 yards and a touchdown. In the other 4 games, he had a total of 6 catches. Not per game, a total of 6 catches. He even had one game where he had 1 target and 0 catches. Meanwhile, Demarcus Robinson, who I think is actually going to be the Chiefs wide receiver 2, had 19 catches, over 200 yards, and 2 touchdowns during that same exact stretch. So why are we still in love with Mecole Hardman? Because he's fast? It doesn't seem like the Chiefs trust him week to week. He's not going to give you that consistency. And again, when Watkins was out last year, Demarcus Robinson was the guy that Patrick Mahomes looked to much more than Mecole Hardman. Stop drafting Mecole Hardman and just wait for Demarcus Robinson with your last pick, or just wait and grab him off waiver wires next year in week 1 or week 2, because he probably won't even be drafted in your fantasy leagues.
You could not be more correct there. We remember that Mecole Hardman was drafted much higher than Demarcus Robinson, that he went to Georgia, he's really fast, and yet, just like Slayton, just does the same thing, right? There was no growth in year 2. There's not going to be any more involvement this year in terms of what he does in the offense. He is what he is, and that's not fantasy relevant. I mean, it's not. Even in what you think is a good matchup, he could just disappear. So there's no way other than as a DFS play, like take a flyer on him once in a while, sure. But in a redraft league, there's really no reason to count on him. And you're absolutely right that Demarcus Robinson is just as productive and could be more productive. So there's no reason to draft Hardman whatsoever. And so my final pick will be a guy that I know very well as a Dolphin fan, Preston Williams. Look, talented guy, kind of came out of nowhere as a rookie and had a really productive stretch. And of course, unfortunate injury, came back, started getting involved in more injury. So it's not even the injuries, right? Injuries happen. We don't like to use the term injury prone. That has nothing to do with it. It has to do with the fact that the Dolphins now actually have other receivers. So let's look at the fact that Preston Williams was productive in that rookie season because Devontae Parker was out, as was almost every other receiver for the Dolphins. He had to be targeted a lot because they had nobody else to throw the ball to. Same thing last year. There was really no depth. Dolphins just had a lot of attrition at that position. It's going to be different this year, assuming that these people don't get hurt again, but let's just assume Devontae Parker is still the wide receiver 1. Will Fuller is number 2, and then they're going to draft a wide receiver. Whether it's with their first draft pick or not, maybe not in the first round, they will draft a wide receiver fairly high, if not 6th overall. So that makes Williams at best the 4th receiver on a team that's not going to be a high volume pass offense anyways, because they have a really good defense and they have a coach who wants to control the ball and not have to sling it, which is why they're going with Tua and not Fitzpatrick. So all told, Preston Williams, it looked like a nice story at first, but he really doesn't belong on fantasy rosters at all. And some of these players, maybe they would thrive in different situations, but you always have to look at opportunity first and foremost. And with the receivers, it's all about the target share. So those are the guys that we are off of our early fades and avoids in fantasy football. Do you agree? Disagree? Let us know. Hit us up with a comment here. And of course, subscribe if you haven't already. We're going to be here all off season long to help you prepare for draft season. Thanks for watching.